Okay, so what we're talking about today is way more than just fighter jets. It's really about a huge shift in global alliances, and it all kicked off with one single decision that sent absolute shockwaves through the defense world.
And there it is. In August of 2025, Spain dropped a bombshell. They were officially pulling the plug on their long-planned purchase of the American F-35. Now, for a key NATO ally to do this, that's a huge deal. A total reversal that completely stunned Washington.
So you gotta ask, right? Why would a country just walk away from the most advanced fighter program on the planet? And where do they go from there? Well, the answers tell a pretty incredible story about money, power, and how the world order is changing.
All right, so to really get this, you have to look at the three big reasons Madrid said no thanks. And spoiler alert, it wasn't just one single thing, but a mix of some pretty powerful factors. Reason number one, and it's a big one, the money. We're talking staggering costs here. When you crunch the numbers, the total cost to own and operate these jets for Spain, we're talking maintenance, software, the whole deal, was looking like it could blow past 10 billion euros. That's the kind of number that just eats your entire defense budget for a generation.
Yeah, and that sticker price for the F-35, it's misleading, to say the least. It might say 82 million on the brochure, but countries often end up paying way over 100 million for each one. And that's not even the worst part. The real killer is the long-term upkeep. Those costs have been way higher than anyone expected, so high that sometimes less than 60% of the jets are even ready to fly. For Spain, that was just a financial black hole they couldn't risk falling into.
All right, the second reason is just as important. And this one isn't about the money at all. It's about a fundamental choice, really. Do you want control or do you want to be dependent?
You see, it all boils down to what's known as the F-35's black box problem. All the really important software, the source code that makes the jet tick, it's locked down tight by Washington. So what does that mean? It means Spain couldn't even upgrade its own planes without getting the green light from the US every single time. They'd own the hardware, sure, but America would hold all the keys.
And you know what? Spain's not the only one feeling this way. This decision is part of a much bigger trend in Europe, this push for what they call strategic autonomy. Basically, they're trying to rely less on the US for their defense, especially now that things feel a little, well, unpredictable. Okay, so if the American jet is a no-go, the obvious next step would be Europe's own next-gen fighter, right? Well, about that, Europe's Plan A is hitting some serious turbulence.
That plan has a name, FCAS, the Future Combat Air System. And listen, this thing is wildly ambitious. We're talking a 6th-generation fighter, drone swarms, a whole connected battle cloud, a joint project between France, Germany, and Spain itself. This is supposed to be Europe's future. But, and this is a huge but, the timeline is a disaster. They're not expecting this thing to be fully ready to go until 2040. Spain's current jets need to be retired by 2030. You see the problem? That leaves this massive 10-year capability gap where they'd have almost nothing.
And if that wasn't bad enough, the whole project is kind of a mess internally. There's this huge rivalry between the French and German companies involved. It's gotten so bad that The Economist is warning the entire program might just fall apart completely.
So you can see Spain is in a really tough spot here. The American option costs too much and gives up too much control. The European option is way too far off in the future, if it even happens at all. And this is where the story gets really, really interesting.
So, what do? The two biggest players are out of the picture. Where does a major European power even look for a new fighter jet? The answer, well, it came from somewhere nobody really saw coming. And then there was the KAAN. This is a brand new 5th-gen stealth fighter coming out of Turkey. And all of a sudden, it's not just some side project. It's being talked about as a real strategic alternative for Spain.
All right, we have to talk about this. The KAAN. What is this thing really, and why on earth would a country like Spain, a central pillar of NATO and the EU, even be looking at a Turkish jet?
Well, for starters, Turkish officials are not being shy about this. They're making some really bold claims, highlighting things like the KAAN having 2 engines, which they argue is better for power and survivability compared to the F-35's single engine. They also claim it can carry a bigger punch, 10 tons of weapons versus the F-35's 6.
Okay, but a deal like this doesn't just happen overnight. It's not coming out of nowhere. There's actually a foundation here. Earlier in 2025, Spain had already signed a deal to buy Turkish Hurjet trainer jets. So that first step, that initial bit of cooperation, really paved the way to make a bigger partnership on a fighter jet seem a lot more possible.
And let me tell you, Turkey is not messing around. They are moving at lightning speed on this. The KAAN already had its first flight back in February 2024, and their plan is to get the first 20 jets to their own Air Force by 2028. That kind of timeline is incredibly aggressive, and it sends a clear signal. Ankara is dead serious about making this jet a reality and fast.
So, okay, let's step back for a second. Because a potential deal between Spain and Turkey for a fighter jet, wow, that's so much bigger than just a simple arms sale. This could actually signal a major shift in the global balance of power.
I mean, the ripple effects from this are just massive. For one, it really highlights the cracks forming in how NATO countries buy their gear. Second, it could instantly make Turkey a top-tier player in the global defense market. And third, it's another sign that we're moving towards a world where it's not just one or two countries calling all the shots.
But at the end of the day, let's be clear. This is a huge gamble for Spain. They're walking away from a proven, if complicated, American jet. And instead, they're betting on a promising, but let's face it, still unproven alternative from Turkey.
And that really leaves us with one last big question to think about. Is this just a weird one-time thing for Spain? Or are we actually watching the future of alliances unfold right for our eyes? A future where nations would rather choose partners they can work with instead of powerful patrons they have to answer to. It's a question that could really change the game for global security in the years to come.